guys, Ward and Mike here from Endeavor Defense and Fitness. We're going to start off talking about our grounded weapons access containment and control curriculum with discussing some of the big overarching concepts that we're going to talk about and reference throughout all the other videos. So this is a little bit conceptual and kind of high level theory stuff, but it's going to make more sense as we go through the videos if we have this to reference. So the first thing we're going to talk about with reference to fighting in any phase, whether we're grounded or standing or clinched, is centerline. So centerline, if you imagine a person as a ray, right? If you remember geometry class, ray is a line that starts at one point and goes in one direction, okay? That's my centerline. From my sternum, sort of this goes along my sternum straight up. So we each have a centerline, right? If I stand in front of Mike, we're both on each other's center lines, which means that this exchange, aside from the fact that Mike is a much better fighter generally than I am, would be equal, right? If everything else were equal, we would both be on each other's center lines. We'd both be able to effectively engage each other to a relatively equal level. As soon as I move off of Mike's center line, I have advantages now, right? All of my tools are available, and his are somewhat limited on this side of his body. If I get further around, right, this exacerbates the effect. Now he has very few tools, I have a lot of tools. His ability to orient and see what I'm doing is lessened. My ability to see what he's doing is greater. There's all kinds of advantages here. If I get all the way to the back, right, this is ideally where I would fight anybody I had to fight. Just walk up behind them and fight him from the back. So if I can arrange, even if we're not talking about, you know, a free movement phase, if we're talking about a clinch phase, if I can arrange to have myself oriented so that my opponent is on my center line and I am off of his center line, I'm going to have more advantages in that fight. If I can arrange to be all the way behind my opponent, I'm going to have even more advantages. So center line is the first big concept we'll talk about. Secondly, we're going to talk about workspace. Okay, workspace is sort of this basketball or beach ball shaped sized area in front of my chest, where if I'm going to manipulate things, I can use the big muscles of my body, the lats and my hips, to move things that are kind of attached or closer to being attached to my body than if my hands are outside of this workspace. My hands are out here, I can move my body independent of them, which means that they can be moved independent of my body. So I don't have the advantage of the huge muscle groups to move that stuff outside of my workspace. Which means if we go to fight over something, I want to fight over it outside of his workspace and inside of my workspace. So if he's got a gun, just for argument's sake, I want to fight over it in my workspace and out of his, right? If he has this inside this workspace and I'm out here away from mine, this is much more difficult for me to win. So be it a gun or a knife or whatever, and applied to whichever person you are in that exchange, workspace is one of the big concepts that's going to be important as we go down through. So the last one is really similar to workspace, and we're going to talk about the torso box. Okay, the torso box is a box defined by my shoulders and hips, this box. Okay, if my limbs stay inside of this box, it's very difficult to separate them from me and isolate them. Okay, I have more ability to control things in here, again in my workspace, and I have more ability to keep my limbs. Okay, so if I need to separate a limb to control it, I need that separated from the torso box, okay? You see there's a hole here. I can start to isolate this limb. If his limbs are inside, it's very difficult to start isolating limbs. So that's the last of sort of the big three concepts that we're going to be referencing as we go throughout these videos. So if you hear us say centerline, workspace, torso box, and you're like, what does that mean? Come back and look at this video. All right, see you next time.